Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. Blake the Bookkeeper here, and today we are going to be discussing the King of Scars duology as well as the Language of Thorns and the Lives of Saints, all by Leigh Bardugo. Before we get into the video, I would just like to put a plug for my socials down below. Be sure to follow those if you want updates from me, from my Instagram and my Twitter. And don't forget to follow me on Goodreads and Storygraph as well. Now with that out of the way, let's get into the video. So what I'm gonna do is you can check the chapter times down below if you want to skip around a little bit. We're gonna be talking about each of the books in both non-spoiler and spoilery sections. I'm not gonna do spoiler talks for Language of Thorns and Lives of Saints because there's not a ton to talk about. I might mention some little bits, but there's nothing super spoilery in them. But I am going to have both non-spoiler and spoiler sections dedicated to these two chunkers in the description below. So be sure to check those out. Okay, to start off with, we are going to be talking about the Language of Thorns. This is a collection of kind of fairy tales set in the Grishaverse. And if you guys don't know what the Grishaverse is or what's going on in this video, Leigh Bardugo has created a universe, the Grishaverse, starting with her Grisha trilogy that came out like 10 years ago, and then followed up with a spin-off duology, The Six of Crows, and now the King of Scars duology, which is kind of a sequel duology to both the Grisha trilogy and the Six of Crows duology. So I'll talk about more about that when we talk about King of Scars, but also you might know about this because Shadow and Bone is the Netflix show adapted from the Grisha trilogy and also incorporating elements of the Six of Crows duology. So it's very big right now. Language of Thorns is a collection of fairy tales set in the Grishaverse, and I really enjoyed this book. It felt like I was reading actual fairy tales from these regions because each of the fairy tales are kind of set in different regions. So you get some fairy tales from Noivizem, from Kerch, from the Shu Han, from Ravka, from Jurda. So you really get a sense of kind of this world's mythology and the way they tell stories differently. And I also really enjoyed a number of these stories as well, just on their own. So I'm just going to tell you the stories and what I ranked them. So this is not the same order that they appear in the book, but this is the order that I ranked them 1 to 6 because there's 6 of them. So the story I loved the most was called The Soldier Prince, and that was a 5 out of 5 for me. The second one was When Water Sang Fire. That was also a 5 out of 5 stars for me. And the third one was Amaya and the Thornwood. Also a 5 out of 5 stars for me. I loved every single one of these stories. I thought they were beautiful and amazing, and I loved them so much. And then the fourth one, The Witch of Duva, was a 4 out of 5. I really like this one as well. And then the fifth one, Little Knife, and the sixth one, The Too Clever Fox, I both gave a 3 out of 5 stars. So average, it was a 3 out of 5 stars, just by doing averages. I did math, okay? I did math. But I definitely think this is something that you should pick up if you are a fan of the Grishaverse. I don't know if it would necessarily make sense if you haven't already been following along with the other Grishaverse stories, but I've really enjoyed the stories in here. She has such a flair for style and writing, and the prose was great, and I can definitely see myself revisiting some of these stories. So next we have The Lives of Saints, and this I would recommend to be read after King of Scars for spoilery purposes, which I'll talk about in King of Scars, in the spoiler section of that. But so The Language of Thorns, I think you can read that whenever. But this book specifically, I would wait until after you have read King of Scars to do so. It does detail the lives of saints because in the Grishaverse world, there are different religions and they have their own kind of things, but they also have these saints, these kind of individuals who have been touched, or their powers are different, or most of the time they are martyrs in some way or another. And so, yeah, this book was really interesting. There was a lot of these saints that we've heard mentioned in the books before that kind of get their own little tales here. So it was nice to see. There are so many of these stories that none of them really stood out to me because they were so short. Like each Saint's like little story was like max 2 or 3 pages. I actually think there was one that was like 6 or 7 pages, but that was like one of the only ones. All the other ones were really short. So they were kind of cute, they were kind of fun, but not necessary, I don't think. So it was a fun read, but I don't think I would revisit this. Now we get to the meat and potatoes of this review. So, King of Scars. I don't know why I held off reading this book for so long. Well, actually, yes, I do. It's because I wanted both books in the duology to be out, and I'm so glad I did, because this book, this is not a spoiler, but it ends on a cliffhanger. And so, but now both books are out, so you can binge them. So yeah, that's not an issue anymore. And so I love this book. This book, I think, is one of my favorite books in the Grishaverse, topped only by its sequel. I think this is the best series in the Grishaverse, the best character work that Leigh Bardugo has ever done. It's just amazing. So this book follows 3 main characters. We have King Nikolai, we have Nina, and we have Zoya. And I'm not gonna talk too much about Nina's storyline, as it does heavily spoil the events of Six of Crows, the Six of Crows duology. So I'm gonna lightly just kind of talk about the plot. Also just because I didn't really know anything about the plot going in, and I think that made this book so special to me because I was literally just blown away by what was happening. So this book follows kind of the aftermath of the Grisha trilogy, and to an extent the end of Six of Crows as well. But like technically this can be read as a standalone duology, but I wouldn't recommend it just because I think the reason I felt so much love for this book and its sequel was just because of the love I had for the characters based on their character development and stuff in the past. And so like coming into this series, I already had a pretty good sense of who these characters were and what they like went through. And so seeing them change and go through all the things that they go through in the series was made so much more impactful because I already knew them. But I could see how like this book does a good enough job of describing kind of what happened where like in the past where you could jump into this as a standalone series. I wouldn't recommend it. The plot starts when there are all these miracles that start happening across Ravka, and a lot of people kind of attribute them to the saints returning, that there's going to be an age of saints, and so Nikolai is like trying to figure out what's going on. There's also some tension with the North, with Jurda, and Nina is actually a spy in Jurda, and she is trying to recover some Grisha from the North and save them from the witch hunters. So Zoya is mostly with Nikolai for the most part, so their storylines almost kind of feel like one storyline. I did really enjoy their 2 perspectives just because they are so different. And also this book just made me love Zoya so much. In the first trilogy, she came off as kind of cold, but that's like how she was meant to. That was what her character was and is and continues to be. And I love how Leigh didn't apologize for having Zoya be cold. Like there's a reason why Zoya is the way she is, and it's not like, I just loved how especially like, okay, so this was Nikolai's story. Like, I mean, the book is named after him, but it like wasn't really his story. I mean, it was, but out of the 3 main characters, his was like the least interesting to me. Like Zoya and Nina, their perspectives were my favorite. And I think what I loved was how Leigh just kind of really showed these like female characters just not being nice. They were really mean, kind of cruel. They were dealing with anger and rage and trauma, and they were allowed to be super messy. And I feel like a lot of the times when I read YA, like, I don't know, I don't really encounter like these female characters who are really allowed to really be as angry as like their male counterparts, you know, whereas like men can be super like, you know, angry and calculating or whatever, and they're like, you know, that's cool, that's their character. But then when you like see women characters do the same thing, you have reviewers who are like, I didn't like them, they were bitchy. You know, I just hate it. And I think this book did such a good job of like having these characters, and they were so unapologetically like themselves, and you understood why they were that way. But like, that's just who it was so well done. It was so well done. I have to applaud Leigh Bardugo for writing these amazing characters. It's like some of the best character work that she's ever done. The backstories are amazing. I cried like a couple times in this book. And that's where I'm going to leave the non-spoilery portion. I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars. I loved it. If you would like to see my non-spoilery thoughts for Rule of Wolves, the sequel, check down below. And right now we are going to get into King of Scars spoilers. So you have been warned. So the Darkling's back. I did not expect that. That just came out of nowhere. I mean, it didn't come out of nowhere, but oh my god, I just was shook at the end of this book. And I was so glad that I had the sequel literally right next to me, because I was like, fuck, like I need to read this book now. And I did. I sped through this duology so fast. It was so fast paced. But yeah, so let's talk about these characters more in depth. So Nikolai, he's dealing with the demon inside of him. And I liked that plot. It was cool, and I liked their trip to the fold. And then we get the weirdest, trippiest sequence in this entire universe series yet. We have them go into like a parallel dimension and find 3 saints. One of which is a dragon, one is like a weird like mass of human flesh and bear, and then, you know, basically poison ivy. And like these saints are, they were so cool. They were so cool and so weird, and I loved them. They were awesome. And so now I want to shift and talk about Zoya, because Zoya, I think, is the best character in this book. Zoya just, when you find out why she felt so guilty and like why she like served the Darkling in the first place, it hurt. Like, it hurts, you know, like she was sold as a child bride, and her aunt was the only one who stopped it from happening. And so she like she wanted to feel powerful, so she would never have to deal with something like that again. That's why she was drawn to the Darkling in the first place. And then the Darkling fucking killed her mother, or her aunt, by putting the fold over that town, and that's what finally made her turn against the Darkling and realize what the fuck was going on. Like, and the guilt she felt from that, it was just, it's such good character work, because Zoya is a very complex character, and I loved it so much. And then her scenes with Juris while she's training, and, you know, she's going to basically unlock her full Grisha potential. That was insane and so cool. And so, like, I loved Zoya. Zoya was amazing. And before we talk about the big climactic thing at the end, I want to talk about Nina, because she had such a cool plot. We had her dealing with Matthias's death, and that was really sad, because, like, when I first read Crooked Kingdom, I was sad. When I just reread it, I wasn't really as sad, honestly. I think Matthias is, like, one of the least developed characters in that duology, but because Nina cared about him so much, I care about him, because I really love Nina. And so in this book, when they are just like talking about, or when she is talking about like why Matthias, you know, what he wants her to do, like why she's in Jirta. She wants to make a difference in Jirta because of Matthias, and that he believes his people can change just like he did. That was really powerful, and I love that Nina really took that to heart and like wants to actively, you know, try to really save his people. And she's saving the Grisha from the Jerdans, who are trying to kill them because they think they're witches. And so Nina is like undercover as a spy. She's a completely different person basically because she's been tailored. And then she finds Han, or Han. I'm not exactly sure how you say that, or Hannah, Han. I'm just gonna say Han. So Han, they become reluctant friends as Nina kind of like almost blackmails her because she finds out that she's a Grisha and that she's going to help rescue all these Grisha women from the factory who are being like forcibly impregnated and like drugged and forced to be like make a Grisha army. So fucking gross. Like my stomach just turned when that happened. Also, I just love how Leigh does not shy away from having these really dark themes in her YA book. Like it's just really gross, but in a way that it's like that's what would happen. Like, you know, the Jordans, they're trying to, you know, just like the Shuhan, like they're all these nations are trying to use Grisha in terrible ways because they're powerful, but also by like dominating them. You know, the Shuhan are making the Kurgad, and the Jordans are like dosing them with Jordaprem and like making like this drugged army. They're both terrible, like in the way that they're using the Grisha, and that's why Nina is like fighting this war basically against them to try to save her the other Grisha. And along that way, Nina and Han they start to develop a friendship, and maybe a little more than a friendship. And Nina meets Matthias's wolf, which was so cool. And then the end with the factory with where Nina basically turns her Adric and Leonie into saints, and she's trying to craft all these little miracles basically to inspire the Jordans to believe in the saints. It's just so well done. Like the plotting in this book is amazing. The characters were amazing. And also I love Nikolai. Sorry, I didn't talk about Nikolai, but I love Nikolai's internal struggle about like, is he the monster? Is he not? And kind of dealing with the burdens of being king now that like it's his country to run. It really feels like they're a bunch of like, you know, they're scrappy. They're getting it together. This country is hanging on by its teeth because it really is. You know, Ravka is kind of a mess, but like in like they're trying to save their country. It's just really good. It's just so good. And then the ending with when the Darkling returns. Batshit insane. Like that whole thing in the Thornwood with Lisbetta, and my mind was blown. This book was so good, y'all. It was so good. And I think that's about as ranty as I can get. Let me check my notes and see if I have anything else. I need to talk about Isaac. This is the reason why I cried in this book. In the second half of the book, we started getting POVs from Isaac, and Isaac is the person that Genya tailored to look like Nikolai. And he ends up falling in love with Princess Eerie from the Shuhan delegation, and he's just a simple guard, and he falls in love. And then turns out that Eerie was actually Mayu, and she was just a guard pretending to be her queen so that she could get close to kill Nikolai. So she actually kills Isaac and then tries to kill herself. Doesn't succeed. But so that brought me so much pain. Like, Isaac was one of my favorite POVs in this book. I didn't want to talk about him in the non-spoiler section because his existence in this book is a huge spoiler because, you know, Nikolai goes missing. Oh my god, but he just was such a good character, so well written, and it broke something in me when he died. So anyways, okay. Oh, okay, something I want to point out. So I loved how they Leigh interwove some of the fairy tales in this book. They kind of pop up here and there. Also, I don't know if y'all caught this, but Leonie, she's the girl that Jesper's mom saved in Six of Crows. Like, his mom died by healing a little girl. And when Leonie talks about it, she is that little girl. That blew my mind. Also, I loved Nina speaking for the dead, like literally speaking for the dead. That was amazing. Fantastic extension of her powers, her bone powers, her death powers. Also, I just loved how she brought the dead back to life to tear the Well Mother apart. That bitch deserved it. She sucked. And Nina was like, justice. And I was like, yes. And anyways, I think that's where I'll leave it. This book was amazing. Okay, so Rule of Wolves broke me in so many ways. Funny enough, this is the second book I've read in the course of a year, 365 days, where ROW is the book that has utterly wrecked me. If you don't know what I'm talking about, the other one is Rhythm of War. Had me sobbing. This book also had me sobbing. So, authors, if you keep coming out with these ROW books, you're gonna make me cry because it's a trend apparently, and I don't know. So this follows directly off the heels of King of Scars. I won't spoil what happened at the end of King of Scars because maybe you're watching this, you haven't read it yet. Just know that this book is very good, okay? This book is phenomenal, actually. It's not good. It's phenomenal. It's great. It's magnificent. It's amazing. It's
incredible, amazing, show-stopping, spectacular, never the same, totally unique, completely not ever been done before, unafraid to reference or not reference, put it in a blender, shit on it, vomit on it, eat it, give birth to it.
Also, I can't talk more about it without really spoiling a lot of this book, which I do not want to do because this book is so surprising and amazing, and you should really witness it for the first time by reading it. But yeah, this book is almost perfect. Actually, it is perfect. I don't think I have any flaws with this book. I don't think this book has flaws. Like, this book genuinely is so good. Like, I need to stop talking about it. But y'all, please go read this book. Please, 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 please. Okay, now we're gonna talk about spoilers, and I'm gonna lose my fucking mind. Okay, so the reason I cried, I'm not gonna cry now, it's because David died halfway through the book. Or a little, actually sooner than halfway through the book. That clip of me crying, that hurt so much. Leigh Bardugo, you are going to pay for my therapy. So that was well, there are some other moments that were like that contended with it for making me feel that bad as well. We will talk about them. But let's go like from the very beginning. So our characters have come quite a long way since the last book. Well, I mean, in some ways and others. So we open with Queen Mackie, who is very newly the queen, and the assassination from the last book has failed, so she's scheming. She's gonna try again. The biggest thing is that the Darkling is back, and he asked to go see Alina, and it was a bad idea. They shouldn't have done it. So they take him to see Alina. And number one, I'm so happy that Alina and Mel were happy and we got to see them being happy, before Darkling stabs him in the hands and then gets his powers back and then like flies off like a fucking bat, like, bitch. Anyways, happy for them. I love Alina and Mel, so I'm happy they're doing well. In kind of the second half of the book, we have Nikolai and Zoya going to Ketterdam, and then they utilize Kaz, Brecker, and Jesper, and Wylan, and it was just amazing to see my crow babies back. I love them so much, and just to see them pop up and be so themselves was utterly amazing. Because they're trying to steal titanium for the war, because the war is on. So let me backtrack a bit. So we have Nina, who is now in the ice court, because of course Han is Jarl Brum's daughter. Forgot to talk about that revelation in the last book, but that's okay. That was batshit insane. And Nina is now embedded inside like the Jordan like court. And she is supposedly like submissive, meek woman, when really her and Han are just like trying to help Ravka as much as they can from the inside. So Nina's using her spy network to send stuff to Nikolai and Zoya, and that's how they kind of are aware of the fact that Jurda is preparing for war. That doesn't help when Jurda surprise bombs the capital, and that's when David dies. So Nina is trying to survive in the court, and then also the rumors of Nikolai's parentage, which are true because he's a bastard king, but she is trying to quash that. And then Nikolai's dad just fucking escapes from the ice court on his own with no help. Well, besides the bone shard that Nina accidentally gave him, but just he's so Nikolai's dad by just breaking out of the ice court by himself. Like, that's fucking hilarious to me, that like Nina's like, okay, I'm gonna go through this elaborate thing to rescue him, and then they're like, wait, he's fucking gone? Top tier, amazing. Okay, sorry this is so incoherent. We need to talk about something that broke me. Because David hurt. But then, so Han is being like courted by the prince, who is a piece of shit. And his guard is like this Druskel who kind of covers for Nina. And then we realize it's because he like is a worshiper of the saints. And then he starts talking to Nina about why he's having doubts, why he's not, you know, as fucking fanatic as Brum is, and that kind of stuff. And we realize it's because he is the Druskel boy that murdered Matthias. Literally screamed out loud when that happened. Like, my roommate was like, are you okay? And I was like, no, I am not okay. And Nina almost killed him. But it meant so much to me, because Matthias like didn't tell Nina who did it, or like he just wanted her to like make change, because he believed in his people, that they, you know, that if he could unlearn his biases that he was taught, that they could as well. And then here's this boy who's questioning his decisions, who's questioning his entire biases and his morals and everything because of Matthias, basically, because Matthias believed in him. And yeah, he killed him, but it put that seed in him where he was inspired to change. I almost had a breakdown, okay? Like, seriously. So anyways, and then we're going to continue to talk about this plot, because this plot is insane. So then Han is left alone. And then when Nina gets back, she dies. Her body is on the pavement. And I swear to God, I was with Nina. I wanted to murder the prince. I was so upset. I was literally so upset, guys. It was like, and just an internal like upheaval of me, like I was so mad. And then Leigh got me, because we realize the prince is Han, and she fucking killed the prince by bursting his heart, then tailored his face to look like hers, and then tailored her face to look like his. And like we got hints that, you know, that Han was cross-dressing in the last book. And, you know, even in this book early on, I was kind of like, she kind of gives me trans vibes because, you know, of the way she talks about, or when she was like pretending to be a man. And then we realize it's because that Han is more comfortable in a man's body, and that Han, like he gets a new name, or we don't know what name he gets, but it just inspired me so much to see this trans character in magical fantasy world, and that the way like Leigh put it in so effortlessly, like, because it makes sense for who he is as a character and all the stuff that he had to go through. And yeah, it's just such a great character, and I ship him and Nina so much. Like they just made my heart happy, like every time they were together, and like when they were declaring like their love for each other, and like, I'll never let you go. My God, I was a mess emotionally because of them. And when I thought that Leigh Bardugo killed off Nina's love interest yet again, I was so upset. I was like, Leigh, you are torturing my girl Nina. It needs to stop. But it's okay. It's a happy ending. And then they can continue to reform Jirda from the inside. Okay, so that's Nina's plot. But let's talk about Zoya and Nikolai, okay? Because they're dealing with a whole ass war, okay? Because we had Jirda, you know, we literally go to war. Like, we are in a whole ass war. Like there are tanks battling, you know, we have, you know, Nikolai utilizing his demon as like an extra bomber. Like, shit just goes so sideways, and it's epic and crazy and so tense. And then Zoya becomes a fucking dragon. Yes. I mean, like, you know, I was waiting for that to happen at the end of the last book when she, like, got Juris's little wrist thingies, but, you know, we had to save it and be dramatic for the big climactic moment in the battle, and it was awesome. It was so lovely. And then now Ravka has a dragon queen because Nikolai maneuvered that shit and painted Zoya. Like, just the way these plots interwove were just so good and so masterful, and I just made me so happy. Okay, let's talk about the Darkling now. So the Darkling was like in this book, but also like not in this book. Like, I thought he was gonna be a bigger influence, because he did have some things going on. Like, he was maneuvering and he was trying to make his comeback, but all the other characters were like, haha, no. And I love that. They're like, fuck you, Darkling. And then and he tries to do this big heroic sacrifice thing, and they're like, no, you don't get to do this. And then we end on the book. Like, this book was very satisfying, but then we end on the little hint, like, we're gonna get Kaz to go get St. Felix's heart so we can, like, actually kill the Darkling. So he's not suffering in pain for, like, eternity. Because, you know, they're nice. They don't want even their worst enemy to suffer in pain for eternity. I would. I don't care. Fuck him. Leave him there. I don't care. He can rot. I think that's most of what I wanted to talk about. Let me check my notes real quick. And I mean, I was freaking out over the crows a lot. Also, here's what I would like to talk about. So I also really love the fact that they made Zoya mixed. It was really just fascinating to see because, you know, like, the Ravkens are really kind of discriminatory towards the Suli, and Inej is also Suli, and I just thought it was so interesting because that they, like, Leigh really explained that's part of Zoya's character, and she was kind of ashamed of it because she never really got to know her dad's side of her family, and that also that she was white passing, which I think is just so strong of a message to have in a YA novel, that she benefited from white privilege because she did not look Suli, but then that also created this, like, you know, this rift within herself where she didn't think that she was Sully enough, or could be Sully, you know, or was that a part of herself that she actually wanted to claim? And then, so having that kind of thread run throughout this book, I think was fantastic, where the Sully like affirmed that, like, yes, you are one of us, like, you are our daughter, and that, like, even though she, you know, does benefit from white privilege of passing because of her mom, like, that was a part of herself that she came to accept, and that also other people were able to accept in her as well. I loved everything about Zoya's character development. I love what Leigh did with the series. I think she has sneakily made this one of the most diverse fantasy, like YA fantasy series out there, besides book written by authors of color, of course. But I'm just saying, for like a series that started so white and kind of generic fantasy, it has evolved into something so crazy and unique and diverse and amazing, and I love that for this series. It's awesome. And so yeah, there's not much else to say other than that. I fucking love this book. I love this book so much. This book has my heart. It's up there. It's on my top 10 of the year already. And I cannot wait until the show is able to adapt this book, because if Netflix cancels the show before it gets to Rule of Wolves, I will storm the facilities myself. I will run into their production office and fight them personally, because this is the book that needs to make it to the screen. Out of all the books, out of every single one of the books that Leigh has written, this is the one that screams to be adapted. Big screen, big CGI, big war, like everything, the characters that I need this. I need it. Thank you for listening to me rant for so long about the Grishaverse books. I love this series so much. It has such a special place in my heart. And also thank you so much for watching me talk about it. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed these books, because I did. And I hope you're excited, because I am going to be doing episode reviews of the show. The next video should be coming out tomorrow, or the first video, or hopefully I get this up soon. Who knows? But anyways, I will be doing a episode review for every single episode in the Shadow and Bone show, as well as a series review. So please keep an eye out for that, and subscribe so you can stay notified. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. I love you guys. Bye.